One of the more common misunderstandings of the colonial era is that all of the colonists came over here for religious purposes. And that's not really true. Especially in places like Virginia and in the South, most of the colonists that came here were looking for land so they could improve their social or economic status. In the Old World, in England, there really wasn't a whole lot of land available. Social mobility was very difficult. So to come to the New World was a way to try to increase their ability to move up the social scale, to purchase land, and to make a life for themselves. Um, in New England is where we see the most religious people going initially. The people that settled in New England often called themselves pilgrims. We would call them the Puritans. These are separatists from the Church of England. They were facing some persecution. They were not allowed to practice their religion as freely as they wanted in New England. So they moved to the New World. They wound up in Massachusetts at first, the famous Plymouth Rock settlement. And what they wanted was to be able to create what they called a city on a hill. This means that they were going to be a model example of goodliness and godliness. And in order to maintain that city on a hill, they needed to make sure that anybody that disagreed with them was kicked out of the colony. See, they're not very tolerant. They wanted their own religious freedom, but they're not going to give their religious freedom to anybody else. So they're not very tolerant. They kicked out, for example, Roger Williams, who disagreed with their views. Roger Williams then went on to found Rhode Island. Another person they kicked out was Anne Hutchinson. She only wanted to be able to have women speak and lead church services, and they kicked her out because it violated their principles. The mid-Atlantic colonies are much more tolerant. Pennsylvania was founded by Quakers, particularly William Penn, and they believed that everybody had the same inner light. And since everybody had the same inner light, then everybody should have equality. The bigger example of religious toleration, though, is actually the Acts of Toleration in Maryland. This was a law passed specifically in Maryland in order to provide a safe haven, a religious sanctuary for Catholics who are also being persecuted over in England. But they were going to be persecuted here in the New World, too, by those Protestant Puritans. In the South really wasn't all that concerned with religion until the Great Awakening. They're essentially Anglicans, which means they're members of the Church of England. But again, they're more worried about making money at this point than they are about anything about religious toleration. Ironically, it's all the intolerance during the colonial period that leads to the push for a separation of church and state after the American Revolution.